Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. We are diving right back into my current historical project, my robe à la francaise, which is hiding right back behind me on the dress form over here. So when last I left you, I had pinned the backs here with all of the pleats and everything to the linen lining. And I wasn't going to put the fronts on yet because, as I mentioned in the last video, I was kind of on the fence about how big the opening should be along the stomacher, and I didn't want to hand sew all of that in place. But actually I realized that I need the fronts to go under the backs at the shoulder seam right here. So I have to put the fronts on now. And honestly, in watching back and editing the footage from last week's video, I think that the opening was fine. So I'm going to take the chance and I'm going to hand sew all of the front area in place. This is all going to be, I think, prick stitched or possibly whip stitched. I have to look at the instructions, but that's all going to be stitched in place along the edge there. And all of this is also going to be hand sewn. So at this point, I have done the whip stitching right here on the edge, but that is the only hand sewing I've done so far. So I need to prick stitch the pleats for about 4 inches at the top of the back, and then I need to also do the hand sewing of like where the shoulder seam is all along the front, and I think that's it for now. I have to double check my instructions, but I think that's it. And then I will kind of like reassess what needs to be done next, which honestly might be more hand sewing. Frankly, we are going to be doing a lot of hand sewing this week, so the process may be a bit slow going and there may not be that much to this video. We'll see where we can get to like next, where, you know, I'm going to be doing a lot more progress all at once. Maybe I'm hoping that we can also get to starting on the petticoat with this video as well, and or moving on to sleeves, but like kind of making bigger strides because the deadline for this costume is coming up what feels like very soon. I have at this point, I think, 2.5 weeks until the global salon, the 18th century global salon that's being put on by costumers of color. That is what I'm wearing this to. So let me know if you are coming to that first off so we can say hi, but also I need to go to work. I'm gonna go hand sew. My Monday sewing time is complete. I did not finish, but I got pretty close. These are all of the pleats in the back. You can see they are all stitched down. I used, I think, what is a running back stitch, or maybe it's a combo of running back stitch and prick stitch, because to be honest, I don't really know the difference, but that's what I used here. Actually, that's what I used in most places. I also used the same stitch here on the shoulders. This side is not yet stitched down in the front. I already showed you that I done the whip stitch up here. This side I have done the shoulders and I've started to do the fronts. So this is a whip stitch. From this side you just see the tiny little like threads that have been pulled, but this is what it looks like on this side where the lining is attached. So I got about, I think, like 3/4 or maybe 2/3 of that side done. Again, still need to do that side, and then we can move on to whatever the next steps are. It is now the end of the following day, and because I taught a lesson today, I didn't have much time to sew, but as you can see, I've done all of the hand sewing now on both sides of the fronts of the bodice. So those are done, which means it's time to move on to the next step. And the next step is making the backs here all super nice and smooth, all the way to like under the pleats, and stitching down to the bodice lining under the pleats. However, I'm kind of tempted to actually try this on, so I think that's going to be my next step, is to try all of this on as is, now that there's at least less pins in it. Obviously there are still pins, but I'm going to try it on, make sure that it looks good as is. Then I will stitch down over here, and then this comes around and the edge gets folded in so that there's no raw edges showing, and it gets placed over the edge of the back seam, and that gets hand stitched down. So we're not out of the hand stitching woods yet, but next up, let's go ahead and just try this on. So between that last clip and now, I actually decided to baste around the arm size, and I pinned everything in place. So like that seam is pinned, it's pinned underneath the pleats. Basically, everywhere I'm going to sew, I pinned or I basted, just so that I would have a better idea of how things were actually fitting. And I think it's good that I did, because I do feel like the silk has kind of, because silk doesn't stretch, it's kind of like it's almost shrunk up a little bit. I don't know that I love these wrinkles, but frankly, there's probably nothing that I can do about them at this point. And then I was also trying to figure out like where to pleat the skirts to. I have it wrong though, and I can't reach to fix it while it's on me, so I'm just gonna have to mark it. But I had just kind of, I don't even know how I decided on where the pleats should go to. I think I just kind of pleated it and then pinned it without really thinking about it. They're too far back over here though. The pocket slit should be a little bit more forward, probably in line with like the front of the pink stripe, somewhere around there. And then I also had pleated the front section up and realized it was way too small because that's supposed to get all the way to the center here, because they always seem to line up with the bodice like edges. So yeah, that's gonna have to get repleated as well to better match the bodice, but that's fine. That's a very, very easy fix. I do feel like there's maybe some sort of a looseness in the shoulders, but I mean, there's not really much that I can do at this point, though I actually do have to fix, I don't remember which side it is. Oh, this side right here. I only basted it partway around because you can see there's like a little bubble. I didn't smooth it far enough back into there, so I have to undo about half of that hand sewing and just slide that little bit back. There was too much silk for the arm side basically. But otherwise, yeah, I feel like we're in a decent place. I think I'm like slightly concerned that my pocket hoops are too small. I do have a grand pannier. I could use that. I don't know if that would make it too large, but I think I'm gonna try it on and see how much of a difference the grand pannier makes versus the pocket hoops. So I like it in theory, and I know that you can't see all the way down to the floor, but it just gets way too A-line down at the bottom. It just keeps going out at this angle, and also the hips are sitting too low. So unless I can modify the grand pannier, definitely we're not doing the grand pannier. I feel like another thing that I want to play with here is the like angle of the front of this skirt. I kind of almost feel like I angled it too much out because when I set this right at the top, this goes so far out. And granted, I'm wearing this over the grand pannier right now, so obviously it's not going to be this bad. But I kind of want it to be a slightly more vertical angle with the stripe in the front of the skirt. So I may play around with raising this. Obviously, I need to figure out the understructure first, and frankly, I kind of feel like I might need to do the petticoat first. So I think what I'm going to do here is I am going to sew the hand sewing portions that I need to do here. So the seam, the back of the gown, I think that's basically it for now, fixing the shoulder, obviously. And then we're gonna do the sleeves. That way we can cut out all of the blue stripy fabric that we need for like the actual gown, and it will leave us with enough to see what all we can put into the petticoat, whether I can get the whole petticoat out of the blue stripy or whether it needs to be partial. Though I have to admit, the idea of a pink petticoat I feel like that's cute. Like I like the idea of it, but it's just not something that they historically accurately did. So I'm a little torn on that. Okay, no, I am gonna do the stripe because I just held up both of the fabrics like just in the center here to see what it would look like in the mirror, and I am not loving this pink. Whereas I feel like with the blue stripey, it just looks like a more cohesive ensemble. It even has me wondering about the stomacher, if I do want to have that out of the blue stripey with the like applique pieces. I don't know, maybe I should hold that up as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it, but I feel like it distracts. So I think I'm gonna need to wait and see with the stomacher and kind of do that last, because I don't know if I like these two together. Well, I'm sure that didn't help how high the hips were sitting on this. I put this on while I was wearing everything else, including the petticoat and the dress and everything. And this is what wound up happening. It just like sank down. And yes, this is what I adapted for my English Regency court gown. So the hips might be in the right place if the waist stays in the right place. They are still too low, and this drawstring is absolutely refusing to stay tightly tied. So I'm going to actually do a little adaptation here and add a waistband, or kind of like take away the top of this with the drawstring and add a waistband so that this sits up higher and doesn't keep loosening up. Like, oh my God, what the heck, cording? Okay, so a few things with this hoop. First off, the middle hoop was actually twisted, which was causing some weird misshaping. It was not affecting the way that like the length, that the hips were sitting from my waist, but it was causing weird misshaping in the back. So I fixed that. I have also cut down the bottommost hoop. I think I took about 10 inches off of it, and I put better connectors in both of those ends. Then up here, I have been kind of pulling up little pinches of this to the form and pinning it there until I got the hip height that really looked a lot more accurate. And I have now drawn in a little red line around, and that is going to be my new stitch line into a waistband. So I'm going to cut off a 1/2 inch above that and attach this to a waistband. I think my plan, I'm not sure yet if I'm going to pleat this into the waistband or if I'm going to gather, but it's going to be one of those, probably pleats to be honest, because I feel like that's going to look nicer and smoother. And it's just going to be pleated up into like this section over here, be pretty smooth over here, and it's going to go into a waistband that's probably going to be about 1 to 1.5 inches wide. It's not going to be this material because I don't have enough that I'm cutting off of there, and I don't think I have any more of this. I made this in like 2014, so it'll just be something else, but it will be a much more firm and secure waistband as opposed to this slippy drawstring. And here is our newly fitted waistband. I still have to add the hooks and bars, but I feel like the shape of this is so much better now. By the way, this is what I use to join the ends of my boning together for hoop skirts. It's just plastic tubing and it fits really well inside. I have stitched down all of my little prick stitches on these side back seams, and I also did prick stitches along this stripe, which I'm hoping because I followed the stripe, you can really like barely see those. So that is what kind of like holds the back to be fitted, and then all of the pleats flow. And I'm hoping that I did it far enough to the back. I literally just followed the stripe all the way down because I figured that was helping me to really like keep it parallel to the pleats. But it does leave, I think probably, I don't know, like at least 5 inches or something like that in between that is still free flowing. So yeah, that is all done. I only went to this pleat here because I do think I'm going to have a little bit of overlap from the front, but I haven't attached or even pinned to the front yet. So I wanted to leave this section right here free. The other thing that I've done is I have created a sleeve mock-up right here. I still obviously need to set it into the arm side. Now the sleeves go across the grain, so I actually decided to draw on some stripes that are going to go horizontally once I turn this right sides out. This is still inside out and needs to be pressed. But this mock-up is the sleeve pattern, and then I sized it up to, I think I've been going to size 26 for the bodice, so I sized this up to size 26, and I also added 2 inches of length at the bottom because it just seemed really short, and considering how short the dress itself was, I figured better safe than sorry. So let's go ahead and press that seam and set this mock-up into the arm side. So I was going to like put on the stays, put on the newly fixed hoops, etc., and try on this mock-up. But frankly, I don't even need to get that far into it. It is so baggy, like so baggy. It's also, okay, so this was in the notes on the blog post that American Duchess made to go along with this pattern. I don't think I've mentioned that this video, but I did mention it last video that is one of the references that I'm using because the simplicity pattern is a simplicity pattern. Things have been simplified and things have been changed, from how they actually styled this, which is using the book, really, the pattern in their book. And one of the things in the blog post mentions changing the location of the curve of the sleeve. And I was thinking at first reading that, like, that seems crazy. It should be in the right place, right? Even if you change size, that curve should be in the right place. Curve's not in the right place. Curve is very much not in the right place. It's over here. I lined up all of my notches, etc. So like the sleeve is set according to the pattern, though I did change it to pleats instead of gathering because that's what they would have done. I do think I need to space my pleats out more also, but in any case, this isn't it. It's huge. Like pretty much all the way through the sleeve. I mean, it's fitting the arm's eye like I feel like it should be fitting the arm's eye, but after that point, it is basically no longer correct. And it's weird how off that curve is. Like, it's here. It should be here. So I didn't maybe need to lengthen the sleeve, but in lengthening the sleeve, it has given me the ability to change where that curve is and to cut that higher. So at this point, what I need to do first is take in the sleeves significantly. It's too bad that I did not set this like I sometimes do, where the seam is on the outside, so that I could like easily change that. But I need to take in the sleeve for one, then I need to figure out the new curve of the sleeve. So I'm gonna do that and reset the sleeve if I have to. I'm kind of thinking I might not have to. I might be able to just taper it in while it's already set, and then I will actually be able to try this on with the stays and everything and see if the sleeve works then. Oh, I should give a quick note that sleeve width did vary throughout the years. So if I'm remembering correctly, earlier on in the 18th century, if you were to be doing like a, I guess a 1750s or something like that gown, your sleeve would actually be wider than when you would be looking at it in, I can't remember if it's the 1760s or the 1750s that had the narrowest sleeves, but they did change width. I am going for a 1770s look here, maybe late 60s, early 70s look. And so I do want a narrower, more fitted sleeve. So that is why I'm really going to be changing it. But also, like, I'm pretty sure that's too wide for all of them. I think we are a lot closer now, close enough where I feel comfortable putting on my stays and stuff and trying this on for real. I took a lot out of that. And what I noticed too, maybe I wasn't paying attention to it before, and maybe this will change once I put the stays on, is that these stripes no longer look like they're going horizontally, like straight across. They look like they're tilting down. So I'll have to see if that changes with the stays. But yeah, let's go ahead and put the stays on and look at the fit of the sleeve primarily, but also of those things. And also that way I can mark the point where I need to put the bars for the hooks and bars. And we'll just see how things are going. Okay, I know you can't see the full thing, but the overall silhouette is looking good. The sleeve is looking great as well, so that means I can cut out all of the excess that is currently like tucked up away in the sleeve. But yeah, I think that once I put this on and like pinned it into place, that stripe did become horizontal again, so I guess that will work still for the cross grain. So that means I can go ahead and cut out the actual fabric, both the lining and the silk for the sleeve, which is fantastic. And I need to replete these because if you saw by my little text on the screen earlier, I forgot to do that before I started to stitch this into place, and they don't at all come to the side. So that does need to be redone before I keep going with the skirt. But once I do the sleeves, I'm ready to move on to the petticoat. That said, the rest of this is actually going to have to wait until next week's video. In fact, I went a little bit past this week's because I had so little footage, since so much of this week has been hand sewing or not sewing at all because of just being busy. Next week's video I think is going to be a lot longer because we are going to be addressing actually making the sleeves and doing the petticoat. And I don't know exactly how much all that will entail. I mean, if I finish all of that, I get to move on to trimming, which is good because our time is running out. It is right now September 22nd, and this event is, I'm pretty sure, on October 4th. So I need to get all of this done stat, and there feels like there's still so much work to do. So even though we didn't get a ton done this week, I am excited to keep moving forward with this project, and I am liking how it's looking so far. Very excited to have a petticoat to go with this as well. And honestly, I'm pretty proud of the hand sewing that I've been doing for it as well, because as you guys know, I'm really not into hand sewing, but it does look so nice when you actually do it. So it's worth it, I suppose. Anyway, that's going to be it for me. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content out on Saturdays, especially shorts. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on my channel, I do have links to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean, Kim, and the Dowager Duchess Isabel Thompson. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!